It was a mystery that devastated two families, terrified a small community, and touched the world. The murders of two young girls, Abby Williams and Libby German. The case became known as the Delphi murders. The setting? A small Indiana town of just 3,000 people. On February 13, 2017, Libby and Abby went hiking. The two teenagers were good friends and had the day off from school. The weather was unseasonably warm. But when Libby and Abby didn't show up at their designated pickup time, their families began to worry, and they began to search. Then, the next day, the unimaginable. The bodies of the two girls were found, both victims of murder. Over the course of the next 5+ years, there were no answers, no arrests, just a series of disjointed clues, like two sketches of suspects that looked nothing alike, a video of the suspected killer, and a short audio recording of his voice. Then things took a strange turn. Police said they were looking for anyone connected to a fake social media account under the name Anthony Schatz. The account had nothing to do with the male model in the photos. Instead, it was connected to this man, who was arrested for child porn. The arrest of Richard Allen for the murder of the girls soon followed. Someone who was not on anyone's radar. Now, we have some insight into Allen's defense and what they say really happened to Libby and Abby. A ritualistic killing committed by members of a pagan religious cult. Tonight, we take a look at this unexpected, shocking twist and the state of the case as we continue to investigate the Delphi murders. Welcome to Closing Arguments. I'm Michael Ayala, in tonight for Vinnie Politan. We are about to celebrate another holiday during which two young ladies will be missing from their families' Thanksgiving tables. Abby Williams and Libby German, two teens taken far too soon. 13-year-old Abby and 14-year-old Libby were best friends, just out for a day of fun on a day off from school on February 13, 2017. That's when the unthinkable happened. They were killed after being taken off the Monon High Bridge by a menacing suspect. Libby had the presence of mind to record the suspect on her phone. That chilling video of the suspect ordering the girls down the hill to where their bodies would be found the next day has become a central piece of evidence in the case. Now, according to defense motions, the crime scene was filled with ritualistic symbols. The victims' bodies were allegedly posed and sticks were placed around the victims in a disturbing pattern. Now, images of the crime scene have been leaked, and that led to Richard Allen's defense attorneys withdrawing from the case. Now, along with those crime scene photos, leaks, there are other allegations of prison guards wearing Odinist patches on their prison uniforms. In court documents, Allen's previous defense claims Abby and Libby were killed as part of an Odinist ritual. And in a stunning turn of events last month, during a closed-door meeting inside Judge Frances Gull's chambers, Allen's previous attorneys, Andrew Baldwin and Brad Rozzi, were accused by the court of gross negligence. During that closed-door meeting, Rozzi says he was forced to withdraw from the case or face public shaming. Just after that closed-door meeting, Judge Gull made this announcement in open court.
We've had an unexpected turn of events, ladies and gentlemen. Earlier this afternoon, the defense attorneys have withdrawn their representation of Mr. Allen. Mr. Baldwin made an oral motion to withdraw. I granted that oral motion to withdraw, and Mr. Rozzi will be submitting a written motion to withdraw, I'm assuming within the next couple of days. They have confirmed with the court that Mr. Allen's financial situation remains static, meaning he is continuing to be entitled to appointed counsel. I will reach out to public defenders to make that appointment. As Mr. Allen is now without counsel, I've ordered him transported back to the Department of Correction. I have asked the attorneys to provide all of the discovery previously provided back to the state of Indiana. I know I entered a protective order on the discovery, and honestly, I don't remember when that was. I think it was in April of this year, perhaps, maybe sooner. But the attorneys have been ordered to provide all of that discovery back to the state. And if you would maintain that until such time as it can be turned over to successor counsel, I would appreciate that, Mr. McClelland.
Yes, Your Honor.
I've also asked the defense attorneys to cooperate with successor counsel. They're not required to do that, but I think that they will in the best interests of Mr. Allen. They're not required to provide any of their work product, but they will be required and have indicated that they will cooperate with successor counsel.
Now, Judge Gull had until November 27th to release the transcript of a closed-door meeting that day, and late today, we actually got a copy of that transcript. And here's what it says in part. It pains me to say this, but the totality of these circumstances demonstrate gross negligence and incompetence on the part of the defense team. This is Judge Gull talking. She says, I'm unsatisfied with your representation of Mr. Allen. I am gravely concerned about his rights to have competent, non-negligent representation. He currently doesn't have that right now because what you have demonstrated is negligence and incompetence. Now I'm sharing my thoughts with you privately. I don't want to say this in open court. I would encourage you to talk privately about what you wish to do. Well, Mr. Baldwin, he responds, I'm not good at reading between the lines. So the court or the judge says, you're a lawyer. That's what you do for a living. Mr. Baldwin responds, when you said have a private conversation, are you talking the four of us? Or the court interjects and says, or the judge, I'm not talking about you. I'm not accusing the state of gross incompetence and negligence. I am finding gross incompetence and negligence with you. Mr. Rozzi says, I'm going to file a motion to withdraw. I don't want to do it, but I don't think I have a choice at this point. The options I've been given without any notice by the court are really either I withdraw or I'm going to be publicly shamed, and that's the way I see this. But Mr. Baldwin says, I'm the same. I'm stunned. I don't know what to say, so I'll just say I'm moving to withdraw orally. And that's what you saw in court just before the judge started to speak. All right, let's bring in my guest for tonight in Atlanta, Georgia. Investigative journalist and author of Down the Hill, Susan Hendricks is with us. And from Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, criminal defense attorney and host of Defense Diaries, Bob Mott is with us as well. And in Pensacola, Florida, private investigator Lauren Vellucci. Hello to you all. Thank you so much for joining me. And I just want to give a little bit more context to that. Just before that, these lawyers had found out that there was an investigation going on. They knew the investigation was going on, but there had been some affidavits filed. The judge had some access to it. The attorneys hadn't. And she said, you know, they hadn't really been given a chance to look at it or contest it or do anything along that line. Bob, I want to start with you. As a practicing attorney, what are your thoughts about the position that these guys were put in and their response to?
I thought it was untenable. I thought that there was no due process under the law. I think that they were bum rushed out of the case, frankly. That is not how the law works in this country. If Judge Gull clearly had very strong feelings about certain things that had happened in this case, well, you have a hearing and you give them notice, and you allow them to prepare a defense and allow them to put on witnesses in order to have an evidentiary hearing, because I don't know how a judge makes any findings just from getting information from the state. It's not how it works in this country, Michael. It's just, you know, so Baldwin, he really was pretty calm when that was going down. And I've obviously read the transcript in total. Rozzi was furious. And I mean, he laid it out. There's a lot of language in there when he goes pretty hard at her. Exactly what I'm saying with respect to the lack of due process in this matter. Because at the end of the day, as much as we all want justice for the girls, this stage of the justice finding is about Rick Allen. And his Sixth Amendment right has just been torched. I'm sorry, but it has, and no one's changing my mind about it.
Yeah, that's exactly what Rozzi and Baldwin argue. The Sixth Amendment implications for Richard Allen are really just mind-boggling. Susan Hendricks, I want to go to you because this raises a lot of questions. There's been a couple of different things that raises questions. Some of the actions of the judge. I want to get your thoughts on this. I'm sure you read the transcript. I'm sure you're aware of what's been going on. I want to get your thoughts because if you would talk to the attorneys, they would say something else is going on here. Maybe some sort of conspiracy, something's going on. And unfortunately, these actions lead to that type of thinking. She would say it's all about the integrity of this trial, the integrity of the potential jurors, not poisoning those folks and some of the actions that the defense attorneys, certainly, I wouldn't call them indefensible, but there were some issues. Your thoughts?
Yeah, while reading it, Michael, there were issues that I had in reading it in terms of it appeared that Judge Gull kept bringing up different phone conversations that they had had off the record. So I think that this hearing, in hindsight, should have gone on as planned that day, obviously, as we look back and see the attorneys and they're saying, so these are only options. And then Frank Gull mentions a phone conversation. So I think that was the mistake. Was it too casual before this, prior to this? And was she forthright in terms of bringing up every conversation they had? So I think in hindsight, there were mistakes made in terms of what was on the record. And now that we see this transcript, but also reading through it, there were certain things that, Rozzi brought up about the OJ case. He brought up Court TV and saying, I really haven't watched maybe back in the OJ case. And that got me thinking too, of course, the way the defense, the genius of that defense, everything was done inside of the courtroom, not prior to. I think this was the mistake in terms of the Franks hearing and everything else, and in violation, in my opinion, to the gag order. It was tried in the court of public opinion. You look on Reddit, YouTube, it's everywhere. Speculation, and it's because of what was allowed out there.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? I read that as well. And Lauren Vellucci, one of the points that Rozzi made was that prior to this, there had been a number of leaks in this case by the state, by law enforcement. And so they, on some level, were trying to level the playing field. In essence, a gag order was put in place as a result of that, and then there were continued problems. But I still see issues with due process as far as they're concerned. They cite in there, in the motion by the civil attorneys representing Richard Allen, they say no court in Indiana has ever allowed a judge just to decide subjectively that she wanted to get rid of some attorneys from a case, so that's what she did. There is a process for this, no?
Oh, absolutely. There's a process. And, given those new documents that were released by the defense stating basically unfair acts and politics, this doesn't look good. It's not a cute look for the judge, in all honesty. And she also did other things that, to me, I have issue with due process, like Bob was talking about, with the fact that he is in the Westville Correctional Facility. And he has been. And to me, that is unconstitutional at this point because he is still an accused murderer. He has not been found as guilty as a jury of his peers. So I have an issue with a few things that she has done, but I do think this is going to be an issue. And it doesn't look well for all the allegations that the defense was making in this long, drawn-out motion. So it doesn't look good.
Yeah, it doesn't. Lauren, I just want to double back on something you mentioned about him being in the Westville Correctional Facility. Tell people why that's an issue, because that's essentially a prison, not where normal folks who are awaiting trial would normally be.
Correct. So when you're awaiting trial, you are in jail. You are not in a prison setting. And he went directly there, I think, a month after he was charged with these murders. And he went there for safekeeping, is what the sheriff said. And it's a much harsher environment. He's there with child molesters, other murderers, and that's just not how the process works. It just isn't. I think we all want to get to the bottom of this, but the most important thing is that we put the right man behind bars for the rest of his life for this murder, and I have a lot of concerns.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, when you look at the way things are shaking out, Bob, you got to look at this and wonder. You got to say something's rotten in Delphi. I mean, there are too many things happening here that can really lead one to ask the question, is there something else going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I fight tooth and nail with myself not to slip into conspiracy theories, but when it's just one thing after another with respect to the timing, it's like every time something would happen in terms of a big move by the defense, within a couple of days, a major event like a leak happens, like 2 days after the Franks memo hits. It's just, the way that it's gone down, and this is where the judge lost control. And there's no way that I'm saying that I think that Judge Gull is complicit in this, but I think that she's gotten sucked up into the vortex of it in terms of her, just like when she made the statement that she had made findings, that she found them grossly negligent without the benefit of having a hearing as an attorney, it made my skin crawl. It really did. How are you making findings of anything without having an evidentiary hearing, without giving the defense an opportunity to come in and put on a case?
And that was exactly their response, Bob. That's why they were so upset, especially Rozzi. He was upset because he said, you know, this is not how we do things. We should have an opportunity to respond to this. But again, this is the way it went down, and I have a couple more questions. We're gonna have to take a break right now, folks, but coming up next, we take a look at some disturbing allegations made by a prison inmate housed with the suspect. Richard Allen, plus ahead in our next hour. Law professor and devoted father of two, Dan Markell, was involved in a bitter custody battle with his ex-wife, Wendy Adelson. Wendy wanted to move with the kids from Tallahassee to South Florida to be closer to her mother, Donna, her father, Harvey, and her brother, Charlie. And after Dan Markell was gunned down in his driveway in 2014, that's exactly what she did. Charlie is now behind bars after being convicted of ordering Dan's killing. And in a shocking new development, Charlie and Wendy's mother, Donna Adelson, has been arrested and charged with orchestrating the murder for hire. Tonight, we take a look at where Donna is tonight and what is next in the case.
Donna is the overbearing matriarch who nags everyone to death about whatever it is that's currently on her. I call it the wheel. The wheel's turning all the time, right? And Wendy getting away from Dan Markell and moving to South Florida was number one on the wheel. Donna enlists the defendant to go in and fix it.
A former police officer charged in the chokehold death of his friend.
His conduct was not only criminally reckless, but showed utter disregard for life.
Mr. Mattioli acted reasonably, and he acted appropriately.
I knew that as soon as he got back up, there was going to be more punches thrown.
You'll see this dramatic trial unfold right here on Court TV.
I know what I did. I know I wasn't choking him.
The deadly cop chokehold trial. Trial coverage weekday mornings, 8/7 Central on Court TV.
We're here in Delphi, Indiana, a town of about 3,000 people. It is the town seat of Carroll County. And we're going to take you on the trail, on the Monon High Bridge Trail that Libby and Abby took in 2017 and how they made it to the bridge. That's not this bridge. This is Freedom Bridge, also mentioned in court documents. So where they started that day, that's a little bit up the road. Across from Mears Farms is what's called Mears Entrance, according to court documents. And it would have been the main entrance in 2017. This fence wouldn't have been here. This is where Kelsey said that she dropped off Libby and Abby on February 13th that year. She would have waved goodbye, said that she loved them, and then watched them walk past those trees. And once Libby and Abby cleared the trees, they had a choice to make. Right here in the center of the trail, they could choose to go right and go towards town, or they could choose to go left towards the bridge. They went left. This is also where three girls say that they ran into a man generally matching the suspect description. He was heading towards the bridge. They were heading the opposite direction towards town. You know, walking along the trail, you realize that there are a lot of places that someone could hide. Yes, it was a different season. This happened in February of 2017. So there wouldn't have been leaves on the trees, but there are a lot of trees, and it would have been very dense. According to court documents, at around 2 o'clock that same day, a witness said she saw a man on the bridge standing about 50 feet up, but he looked very different according to her account. Looked boyish, young, 20s, maybe 30s, no facial hair, and brown curly hair or poofy hair. And that's what led to the second sketch. So we're at about the halfway point of the Monon High Bridge here behind me in Delphi, Indiana. You can see I'm standing on a part that is rebuilt, looks completely different than the area that leads over to private property. About this area right here, that's where that Snapchat photo was taken, where Libby takes a picture of her friend Abby. The two girls, they were heading down the bridge south over to private property, and that's where the abduction happened.
All right, that was Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson giving us a first-hand look at the crime scene where Abby Williams and Libby German's bodies were discovered on February 14th, 2017. Now, here's what we know about that crime scene from Richard Allen's defense that was outlined in court documents. Libby was found flat on her back, her left arm stretched above her head, touching the base of a tree, and her right arm was placed along the side of her body. One large tree branch had been placed on her left shoulder. This branch was so long that it extended above Libby's head several feet and below her legs for several feet as well. Two smaller branches formed a V where her legs joined her body, with both sides of the V extending upward toward Libby's head, with one branch extending to the left of Libby's head and the other to the right of Libby's head. The last of the four branches extended across Libby's body on a line from her right shoulder to her left shoulder. Abby, just a few feet away from Libby, her body not parallel to Libby, but rather at an angle with Abby's legs just a few feet from Libby's legs. However, both of their heads, were found a few feet apart from each other. Abby was found on her back. Abby's elbows were bent, with her right and left arms both placed on her chest, Abby's left hand and arm near the left side of her face, and her right hand and arm near the right side of her face. Also, Abby's left leg was straight while her right leg was bent at the knee. The murderers also placed her bent right leg under her left leg. And like Libby, those involved in the murder had placed tree branches on a very specific pattern on top of Abby. The pattern looks very similar to an asterisk, consisting of 3 tree branches all joined in the middle. Above Abby's head were smaller sticks that had been placed over her hair, crudely mimicking horns or antlers. Also, according to the defense's memorandum, Libby was found nude, blood spots and blood drippings seen all over Libby's body. No blood sprayed or dripped onto the leaves or the tree near Libby's head and sliced neck. Abby found fully clothed, dressed in Libby's sweatshirt and jeans, and Abby found wearing 2 bras. No blood on Abby's clothes, very little blood on Abby's body apart from the fatal wound on her neck. Libby's phone and shoe found under Abby's lower back. All right, just interesting stuff. Still with me, investigative journalist and author of Down the Hill, Susan Hendricks, criminal defense attorney and host of the Defense Diaries, Bob Mata, and private investigator Lauren Vellucci. And Susan, I'll start with you. I just want to get your thoughts on the crime scene. Police say they looked into this whole angle of those being symbols or symbolic or ritualistic in some way and found nothing. My question to you is, can we trust that? I mean, it seems improbable to me.
Yeah, Michael, you brought up a great point earlier in terms of what was leaked when and when did we know it and why. But because of everything we're seeing now, of course, we all analyze it and think what really happened. And I believe that maybe that's part of Judge Gull's issue in the most recent document, saying none of this should have been out there for everyone to see. I mean, I covered it from the start, and the secrecy, I mean, it was so palpable. They wouldn't tell us anything, and it was frustrating to say the least. But I think maybe, I'm speculating here, that the 2 attorneys that Richard Allen had, who are in this document, thought all of this is too secret. There's so much secrets going on here that this is what should be allowed. And that 136-page document, I believe disguised as the reason for Frank's hearing, so to speak, gave almost too much information. What Bob touched on earlier in terms of the conspiracy theorists, he's right. They're out there because they go after me. Anything I say, they'll play. They're really, I mean, it's cruel and it's mean. And what Bob was saying is he doesn't get into that in terms of what he's saying, but they're out there. Bob will speak to that, and they go after me. And I don't think that we should have all of this information is my point here.
Yeah, it's a question. And I think the one thing that rang through the transcript of the meeting between the attorneys and the judge was she was angry with them. I think that's the one thing that sort of rang true. Lauren, I have to ask you, you heard the description, we've read about the description of the crime scene. It doesn't feel like something that was done by one person. Just in your experience, what does that crime scene tell you?
Yeah, just the fact alone that there was no blood on Libby. This was a heinous crime scene. And for someone to have done that, and we know how we have JSM, Joseph Scott Morgan, on the program all the time, how easily blood is transferred. Just the fact that that alone was kept on her and that there was no blood on Libby, I have a very hard time thinking that one person was able to do that. Not to mention the other things that he did as well, with all the sticks and the placing and all of that. Now, could it have been done? Sure. Was it possible? Sure. Probable? No, I don't think so. I think it was more than one. And again, that goes to the defense's theory, which sounds to me a lot like it could be possible.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, Richard Allen's defense claims that he is innocent. He's not one of the men, if there were more than one person to commit this crime. They blame the murders on an Odinistic, ritualistic killing or cult-type situation. In a defense memorandum, they state members of a pagan Norse religion called Odinism, hijacked by white nationalists, ritualistically sacrificed Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Now, the evidence shows that during his pretrial incarceration at Westville Correctional Facility, Richard Allen has been monitored, intimidated, and mentally ambushed by correctional officers who are also members of the Odinite cult. Now, these Westville Corrections officers boldly wore patches on their Department of Corrections uniforms that proclaimed, "In Odin we trust," along with another patch displaying symbols of Odinism. That's those interlocking triangles. Now, this is what those patches worn by the guards on their uniforms looked like. Now, Allen is being housed in the Westville Correctional Facility. And I do want to say, normally a defendant is housed in a county jail while awaiting trial, but Allen has been in a prison cell. Now, his former defense attorney had been fighting to get him moved because they say he's being mistreated there. They claimed his physical and mental health has been suffering. And a fellow inmate who had agreed to testify in the case is speaking out about Allen's treatment behind bars. In a handwritten letter to the court, Robert Baston wrote, "I was housed in a cell, A2206, just above Richard M. Allen's cell at A1107, due to being a voice on how Richard Allen was being mistreated by corrupt sergeants. Security cameras will show Sergeant Brandon Williams slamming to the floor and violently breaking my foot and ankle, and then intimidating the nurse not to treat my injuries. Sergeant Brandon Williams and officers hold me while Officer Quentin Davis violently punched me in the ribs and stomach, while Officer Mr. Motts kneed me in the face. I was placed on strip cell and my personal property was taken. When I eventually received my property back, my legal documents were either destroyed, lost, or taken due to incriminating recorded dates and times. Some of those recorded dates and times concern how Richard M. Allen was being abused and mistreated by staff and officers. Again, I have witnessed Richard M. Allen being abused and mistreated. I, Robert Batson, ask this court to report this corruption to the proper authorities to investigate." All right, let me go to you, Bob Motta, because I know you have experience dealing with folks in jail, and this guy seemed to be especially prolific. He had other letters claiming that there was contraband coming in against one of the officers, actually a few of the officers, and a number of systemic issues he brought up. What do you make of his claims that there was abuse of Richard Allen and that he's being abused because he spoke out?
If I'm his attorney, and I'm talking about Richard Allen's attorney, I'm exceptionally concerned. You know, it's easy to decide to find somebody to not be credible because they're a convicted felon. And I know that Batson has, as you stated, has written several letters, has complained often about the situation in Westville in particular. But if I'm Alan's attorney, I'm mortified on behalf of my client. You know, I mean, and that bears itself out in the fact that they've tried to get him out of there not once, but twice. And I've been, frankly, in the exact same situation in the case in Omaha, Nebraska, where, you know, 23 hours a day, Michael, going on 6 months in segregation with no human contact is brutal in and of itself. When you start adding in other things that are going on, which they just happen in prison, and people may not want to like believe it, but you know, and that's the problem with having a pretrial detainee, somebody who has not been convicted of anything and who is presumed to be innocent in this country, and that's the law of the land. It's not an opinion. You know, they don't make that distinction in prison. The guards don't, and the inmates don't. He is being viewed as a child killer, and he's being treated as such by both of those parties, and I have zero doubt about it.
Yeah. Susan Hendricks, I want to bring you in quickly before we have to go to break. I think Bob hit it right on the head. The sense I'm getting from that community is that they're treating him, and I want to say the legal community out there, as if he's already convicted of this crime. Do you sense that as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bob was right. I have the same opinion. I don't think he should be there. I've heard it from the other side saying, well, he has more privileges there. There's mental health experts, but come on, he doesn't deserve to be there. Look at where we are, and a jury hasn't even been picked. And this is how much discussion is going on around this. What we want, what the families want, what Bob has spoke of, all of your guests has, is a fair trial, the right to a fair trial. Richard Allen deserves that. The families deserve that. Now we have to decide, or it has to be decided. How do we get there?
Yeah, and a fair trial in a timely manner. That's one of the issues that's been raised by the attorneys that were let go in this case, that by doing what the judge did, they pushed this thing out another year. So he's got to be in this situation for another year. So that's not something to sneeze at. All right, we do have to take a break, folks. We have much more ahead. We want to remember the real victims in this case. As always, Abby and Libby. Up next, we're going to hear from their families and how their senseless murders have affected the small town of Delphi.
I've worked hard all my life. I've gone from being a local reporter to becoming a law student to then even going on to teach other lawyers, all before I came to Court TV. As a journalist, lawyer, and teacher, I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show, Opening Statements, every morning on Court TV.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central, only on Court TV.
Obviously keeping their story out there, keeping their names out there.
Mike and Becky Patty were surprised by the call that came. Police had arrested the man accused of killing their granddaughter, Libby German, and her friend, Abby Williams.
It was very bittersweet, you know. Like I said, it was kind of a strange feeling that when they told us, you know, hey, we've got somebody detained and we're going to make an, you know, arrest him. It was like, okay. I guess all that work has started to pay off.
For nearly 6 years, Libby and Abby's families kept the girls' stories front and center around the globe.
Maybe it took all of that. Maybe it took looking further away to find him here. I don't know. I only know that I feel like we did our part, what we had to do to keep the pressure out there to find him. That was our part. That was what we were supposed to do.
The arrest has brought them some peace, but their hearts still hurt. The loss, unforgettable.
I believe that she helped lead them. I believe that she was steering all along. And I believe she's up there quite excited.
Now, you don't need me to tell you that the Delphi double murders case is filled with twists and turns that no one could ever see coming. But the one thing that has never changed is that the lives of 2 young girls were taken away far too soon and in a brutal way. Abby German and Libby Williams were both friends just out for a fun day of hiking along the Monon High Bridge in Delphi. Now, Abby's sister, Kelsey, is the one who dropped the pair off on February 13th, and they were never seen alive by their families again. This is Kelsey and our guest, Susan Hendricks, taking the same drive that she did that day to drop the girls off. Now, days after their bodies were found, Indiana State Police released a photo of the suspect from Libby's phone that showed a man on the trail around the same time. They also released a short clip of the suspect directing the girls off the bridge.
Guys. Downhill. Guys. Downhill. Guys. Downhill.
All right, still with me, Susan Hendricks, Bob Mata, Lauren Vellucci, all with Susan. Let me start with you because you obviously had an opportunity to visit with family members. I got to get a sense of how they're doing now. All that's going on, all that's been revealed cannot have been easy for them.
Yeah, and I think that they really found support through talking to the media. I got to know them, of course, through first interviewing them, and I know that Kelsey now has a little girl, Ellie, and I love to see pictures of them. But speaking with Becky at CrimeCon, and of course, nothing about the case was discussed, it's difficult for them. I know that they had a purpose, and they really like to be out there and to say, this is what we're looking for, this is what we're doing, and things are still hurtful to them, but they can't say it. And I know that Libby's grandmother was showing her frustration when she knew that the crime scene photos were leaked and posted on Facebook what she could, because she's respecting, of course, the gag order, doesn't want to do anything, of course, to mess up the trial and what moves forward, but saying, look, these are the pictures, and I'm quoting here, it says, for those that want to see pictures, for those of you who want to see them, these are the ones that you should be looking at. I'm paraphrasing here, not the ones that should not be seen until trial. So they're hurt by what people say out there. They're listening, they're looking, they have feelings, they want this to go by fast. They want to get the right guy. If Richard Allen's innocent, of course, why would they want him in prison and the guilty guy or guys still out there? So they want what everyone wants. They just want this in a manner that's done in a more, in a way that this isn't going on, the chaos, if you will, before a trial has even started.
Yeah, and I would imagine keeping things respectful. I mean, it's so hard in today's day and time with all the social media to keep control of the message. And I see Grandma trying to sort of take back that control. I want to take a listen to the community because we also have a community at large of about 3,000 out there in Delphi. This was shortly after Richard Allen was arrested. Here's some people. We spoke to some folks out there. Here's what they had to say about how they felt about that.
They caught dead creeps, so now I can come here and enjoy the outdoors. We like to hike all the parks around us.
It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for the community here and everywhere.
Lauren, it's a small community, you know, many of these across America. And there's this claim of this conspiracy, this Odinist cult. Is it possible for it to exist in a community like that? We're seeing that it apparently, according to the defense and stories they're telling, it reaches into the correctional system and officers and law enforcement. They're being framed. I mean, not that you read between the lines. I got to get your thoughts on that.
So when it first came out, I thought it was way out there, right? And then the more information that I received, the more looking into this whole case I do, yeah. Social media accounts for these people who are named in that documentation, it's crystal clear that they're Odinists. They do the Odinite things with the sacrifices and all of that kind of stuff. So it is possible. It was a new thing to me, Odinism, but it does exist there, and it does exist in those people who we shall not name on the air, but yeah, it does, and it's creepy, and I just want to say something about the victims too. I just want to say what a hero that Libby was. We know as grown-ups, as adults, you know, if we see something, to say something, but the fortitude and the brains that this young lady had to film when she felt something wasn't right, it blows my mind, and she is a hero to me. And I just think every parent everywhere needs to teach their child at a young age that if something doesn't feel right, everyone has cameras these days, and to do what she did, because she solved this case, or will eventually solve this case. And so I just props to her, and she's amazing.
Could not agree more. I mentioned very early on she had the presence of mind to do that under some very trying circumstances. So I agree 100%. Bob, going back to what Lauren mentioned about what might be going on out there, what's very possible. According to law enforcement, they looked into this and they apparently didn't find anything. Doesn't sound to me like they're the right folks to be looking into it. Does something else need to happen here?
I mean, look, I try to explain to people when I'm in my podcast or on my YouTube channel, everything that the defense stated in their memorandum came directly from the state's discovery, which came directly from law enforcement. These aren't theories the defense is cooking up in their office. This is all stuff that came directly from the evidence that was given to them by Nick McClelland. So, like, and what we know is that there were 3 cops who continued to investigate that angle long after the Unified Command decided, for whatever reason, that they were no longer interested in investigating that angle at all. And, you know, I mean, the whole thing with the professor and them saying that they didn't know who he was during a deposition, like, everything that took place just makes it stink. And you know, and it's so apropos to have this particular question during this segment when I have to look at just the victims' families who have put all their hope into what law enforcement has told them in terms of it being the correct person. And then when we hear what the defense has put out, and again, which has come from the discovery tendered to them by the state, it breaks my heart. Because for whatever reason, they quit. In my estimation, whether Richard Allen, they found more evidence on him and they can prove that he's the guy, that's amazing. And I'm thrilled for the families because they're getting the justice they deserved. However, based on what I've seen, and it came through in that defense memo, thankfully, I think that they need to be continuing to investigate, Michael. That's how I feel about it. I think that to stop the investigation is absurd based on what we all now know.
I would have to agree. And again, you know, putting everything under seal, not leaving it out to the public, considering all the interest, I think, you know, everything under the sunshine, you know, you got to have it out there because there's so many questions in this case.